Kira and Bashir are taking a jaunt in a mega shuttle. Whatever just kicked off resulted in Bashir saving a life, with Kira complimenting him about it. She soon regrets broaching the topic and learns he doesn't need anybody else complimenting him, as he's perfectly willing to do it himself. A distress call prevents Kira from making the physician need to heal himself, and we pop over to take a look. The ship has a few problems from the looks of all that smoke. Kira goes off to try and fix things, while Bashir tends to a woman that was lying on the floor in front of them while he and Kira had a little chat. The pilot's dead, according to her, though Bashir's detected someone else behind a door. He's a prisoner, says the survivor, which I guess makes her his keeper, and he's responsible for their ship's technical issues as part of an escape attempt. Bashir ignores the keeper's warnings and barges in to save him, his scans showing the guy's having 1 or 2 health issues. If this really was his plan to escape, then it was a shit one, as his room is literally on fire. Kira's found a hose and gloves from somewhere and manages to put it out, but the prisoner is in bad shape. Or maybe not, as he grabs Bashir by the throat and demands to live. Maybe he shouldn't have wasted all that energy on threatening people. He collapses back down with a glassy-eyed stare, and Bashir declares him cocked. Keeper wants to be sure. When she wakes up back on Deep Space Nine, she insists on confirming the prisoner is dead, and remarks that this is where he was heading. That's an odd thing to say of somebody who was in custody, unless he'd literally just been captured, but let's see where this is going. Keeper's checking for herself, while asking if it's possible the corpse we're seeing was switched. See, this wouldn't be the first time he's pulled this bullshit, and the error has proven fatal for others. Those people were just entries on a list, though, as our prisoner here is a mass murderer who's killed plenty. Keeper says it was to prolong his own life, but doesn't elaborate on what that means. The only thing she's very clear on is that he's as dangerous as all buggery, which might explain why she stabs the corpse, then asks for her own ship to be scanned to make sure there's nothing unusual on board that could be him. As Bashir's checking a dead body, Quark's got his eye on a live one. He's one of Dax's many admirers, and a chat with Odo establishes he wants her precisely because he can't have her. Nor can he have a shipment of minerals coming to Deep Space Nine later, something Odo makes very clear to him, presumably because it's valuable, and thus something Quark would already know about and have plans on nicking. Quark goes off to bother Dax some more, and the conspicuous Starfleet officer that's been watching them have the conversation, something generally not seen in extras, proves he's not one by talking. It's a judgment of Odo's methods, saying he just let a criminal element know about something important. Odo politely tells him to eat shit, only for him to offer Odo a helping right back. He's from Starfleet Security, wanting to know what arrangements are in place around this mineral shipment, and he won't take go fuck yourself for an answer. Time for a meeting, and Bashir's updating Sisko. He's done some checks and confirmed the dead prisoner is definitely proper deaded, all but guaranteeing he isn't. And we have a little chat about something Keeper said before, namely that prisoner was coming here. It's to do with the incoming mineral shipment, their species apparently needing it to treat a chronic medical condition affecting their whole population. There's not enough to go around though, and that makes certain elements like prisoner willing to do anything to get it. Speaking of which, Starfleet Security has arrived in Ops to have a chat with Sisko about it. A comment from Kira about inviting Odo is declined by the security guy, resulting in quite the look between Kira and Sisko. In his office, Sisko gets straight to the point and asks how well he's liaising with Odo. Security guy thinks this is over Odo's head and is open about saying so. Sisko says he's flat out wrong and to shut his damn mouth because we're guests here. Fair fucking play, Benjamin. It's enough to make security guy eat some of his ego and go to apologise, though a fair portion of that was probably Sisko implying that he expected it. Odo's willing to let it lie and go over the arrangements he's made for the mineral shipment with security guy and Keeper, or he tries to go over the arrangements anyway, only to find he can't because of a technical issue. That issue? Everything currently running has been deleted. How odd, says Keeper, as that's a trick the dead prisoner has pulled previously. Keeper's convinced the dead prisoner is anything but. She believes he's alive and responsible for the computer fuckery. Dumping everything currently running was his way of getting its security arrangements on the shipment, which doesn't really hold up to scrutiny if the file wasn't in use, but let's ignore that for now. Keeper's been tracking him for a long time though and knows some of his tricks. A suggestion that they look for computer access via a minor system proves accurate and lends credence to her belief, but even so, Cisco's struggling to accept the prisoner isn't dead and suggests it may be an accomplice. We knew he already planned to come here after all. Keeper lists a number of increasingly desperate methods he's used to extend his own life. We've sent off a DNA scan to check against their main records and make sure the corpse is really him, and that'll take another 12 hours, says Bashir. Better safe than sorry, thinks Cisco, so we'll assume he's alive till we know for sure. That's the best way of protecting the mineral shipment. Speaking of which, Odo has something to say about that, in private. Security guy trod on his authority during the meeting they just had, and he's pissed off about it. Threats of resignation are calmed by Cisco, and we get to what Odo really wants, confirmation that he's in charge. He gets it in no uncertain terms, so it's time to see if we can catch an undead prisoner that may or may not exist. Maybe there's something to it after all. Dax scanned Keeper's ship like she wanted, finding nothing that could qualify as an unexpected wibbly, but she did notice that some dickhead had a go at breaking into the cargo hold. Could just be Quark, chancing it of course, but Dax went to have a look and found something in the prisoner's effects. She says it's a map of the humanoid brain, a line which completely ignores the many and varied differences between species, but I'm not the scientist, so what do I know? Let's ignore it and go to Quark's. He's checking the floors to see if anybody dropped something worth stealing when he's interrupted. Somebody wearing black, and whose voice sounds exactly like Bashir whispering, so I guess that's the surprise reveal for later on, fucked, grabs Quark and asks if he's made arrangements for stealing the mineral shipment like he was asked. It's the dead prisoner, of course, sufficiently alive to still be planning a heist. After Quark gets over the fact that he's talking to a corpse, he confirms that some mercenaries were hired by him just as previously arranged. Satisfied, the prisoner leaves before Quark can get a good look at him and see that it's Bashir. Bashir's got the DNA results back and has called in Keeper to let her know, though we have a little chat about her using some sleeping meds last night and being unavailable, presumably to make her a suspect for the viewers who didn't immediately recognise Bashir's voice a few minutes back. Anywho, results. The guy on the slab is definitely prisoner. It's still not enough to convince Keeper, so we'll leave her to check the details while Dax calls Bashir over. She's been working on prisoners' files, the ones with brain scans in, and thinks he was working on consciousness transference. In short, she thinks he was trying to squirt his brain into someone else, and Keeper is the prime suspect as she was around him the most and is the same species. Cisco's skeptical about the idea as Keeper's been the most vocal in saying the prisoner was still alive, but Dax and Bashir suggest she might not even know if she's locked out when he takes over. It's enough suspicion to keep her out of security plans, and she's less than impressed when she finds out. Odo softens the blow a little by saying only 4 people now have access to that, but she tries asking all the same. And conversation turns to Quark as she thinks he's the sort of person prisoner would have arranged dodgy shit with. Odo says he's being watched, though Keeper decides to take matters into her own hands and do a little watching herself. She's there when Quark is talking to the mercenaries he's hired and overhears that they're planning to steal the mineral stuff, until she screams and falls from her vantage point anyway. She's alive, but can only be kept awake for long enough to say she was pushed by the prisoner. That's what Bashir says anyway, so we'd best question Quark instead. He doesn't know anything besides seeing her fall, and there definitely wasn't anybody else in there with him talking about a hijack. Odo knows he's full of shit and goes to check things over for himself. Let's catch up on Dax's research. She's giving prisoner's corpse a pedicure and checking an idea she had from his research. Doing a science to the shit under his nails, finds a gizmo she says could deliver a charge carrying prisoner's consciousness, which, yeah, alright then, sure. She knows what to look for now at least, as the science bollocks leaves a detectable wibbly in the system, so we'll check Keeper once she's not in danger anymore. Speaking of danger, Quark's taking those mercenaries to meet their real employer. Whoever it is has managed to arrange the use of a mega shuttle, though Quark's a little surprised to find Bashir there when they arrive. Cue the official reveal that Bashir is carrying prisoner's consciousness, presumably for the people who didn't recognise his voice 10 minutes back. Security guy isn't doing what he's supposed to be doing, and Odo's pissed off at him. He was supposed to be at the docking bay for the mineral shipment, but as that's where pretty much all of the station's security is, he went to check a hunch instead. As Prisoner already buggered their systems once by patching into them from something unimportant, Security Guy thought he might try the same trick again with all of our security stuff during the handover. And he was right, too. Another point of access found in the systems that deal with sewage, meaning that he was literally trying to fuck shit up. It's a good catch, and in the nick of time, the shipment's just turned up and is coming in to dock. Kira notices a mega shuttle on the way to meet with it and asks if we organised an escort, just as Dax arrives to say Bashir is missing and his comm badge was left in the infirmary, and the computer says that unexpected mega shuttle was launched by Bashir too. Over on the mineral freighter, they're having a bad day. The mercs teleport on board and poop purple at the crew, shots that I'm guessing aren't set to stun based on the pyrotechnics. Bashir's called and told they're in control so he can join them. Time to about-face and scarper, he thinks, a plan somewhat scuppered by the tractor beam that just grabbed hold of them. That's a bit of a surprise to him, as all the defence systems should have gone tits up due to the gizmo he planted. A call from the station shows Sisko's figured out what's happening, but Bashir's not ready to give up yet. He says he'll put his foot down if they don't let him go. It'll destroy the ship if he does it with the tractor beam still active, and that'll kill everyone on board. Even worse, it'll release those minerals, which we've now decided are so toxic that it'll mean having to evacuate everybody in the system for some reason, possibly because somebody on the writing team thought destroying medicine to save thousands of lives wasn't sufficiently thrilling. Not to worry though, as Dax thinks she can do a science to the tractor beam that'll make real Bashir wake up and fight back. She needs time to set it up though, and Sisko stalling Bashir isn't working. Not everybody on the freighter is willing to die though, and one of the mercenaries tells Bashir to get fucked. He gets murderized for his trouble, though he's given Dax enough time to set up the science bollocks and send it down the tractor beam. Bashir has a brain fart, and real Bashir takes over for long enough to drop the ship's shields like Sisko asks. He's teleported back over to the station by Security Guy and met with Sisko pointing a gun at him. Bashir says he's fine now, which might be a little easier to believe if he didn't have another brain fart, so Sisko poops yellow on him, just to be sure. Dax's research means we've learned enough about all of this brainial bollocks to fix it. She's able to teleport anything to do with the prisoner out of Bashir and into a space hockey puck. Dax wakes him up, and he reacts pretty well for someone who technically just had part of their head removed, so that's nice. Keeper's all better too, which is impressive when she was nearly dead a little while back and the doctor treating her was off doing other things, but let's ignore that for now. A little comforting Bashir for being possessed by a murderer ends when Dax asks Keeper what she intends to do now. Keeper makes sure Sisko considers the prisoner to be back in her custody before pulling her gun and frying the space hockey puck. It disintegrates, leaving only ashes, and we leave the viewers to debate if what she just did constitutes an extrajudicial execution, until the next adventure. Well, it's not quite a full-on stinker, but it's not great, is it? There's the potential for something interesting here, but a few things hold it back. We could argue that the heist is illogical for a start. If Prisoner is no longer in a body of his species, why is he still trying to nick the mineral that keeps his old species alive? There's the profit motive, I guess, but if you've already managed to make your way into a body that doesn't need it, and you've got the chance to scarper without anybody ever knowing, it's a hell of a choice to continue with the heist. Now, okay, you could say his research to date suggests he's not exactly working on logic, but this is someone we've established has a very strong survival instinct and has gone to great lengths to continue living. In that context, the unnecessary danger is contrary to the established character. That isn't the only problem with this episode, though. It's also not Alexander Siddig's best work, as he himself openly admits, and that's a shame as it's his first proper chance to stretch. He's hamstrung a little by a somewhat unoriginal concept that doesn't really do much different to other stories on the same principle. The old possession by bad guy thing has been done regularly, including by Star Trek itself. This doesn't add to it in any meaningful way, something you'd expect to see in later seasons when a format is starting to tire rather than in its debut run. It's also worth mentioning that Siddig reports he didn't get the script until the day before shooting, pissing on any real chance to prepare. Spoiling the reveal certainly didn't help either. I don't know if I've an above-average ability at clocking voices or something, but possessed Bashir's voice was so similar to normal Bashir that I recognised it immediately. A little research tells me Siddig originally acted the possession scenes with a different voice and was told to dub them during editing. We'll probably never know if the original effort was bad, but dubbing it with something closer to his actual voice essentially ruined the reveal and destroyed 10 minutes of potential suspense. So, as I said, it's not an absolute stinker, but it's certainly the low point of the season so far for me. For those rewatching the show, it's probably a safe entry on the list of ones to skip. End of episode.
Well, that was a nice smooth landing in the end. Not bad for me first time.
You had nothing to do with it. If it hadn't been for the tractor beam, we'd be a stain on the hull.
Just like you to obsess about the details.
Speaking of details, I note the shuttle hasn't disappeared after touching the station. Perhaps we overestimated how serious the time thuggery would be. You know, that probably raises a lot of awkward questions.
True enough. Should we just pretend it didn't happen?
Pretend what didn't happen.
That's the spirit. Woof.